So, Sanaya Rivers got on live, and you better believe the next time that the Indiana Fever faced the Connecticut Sun, like, I just want to see, has this really even been covered on YouTube? ESPN posted it 7 hours ago. ESPN posted it. ESPN took clips of it live and posted it in full on their one, which is crazy.
The war on Caitlin Clark, a relentless on-court campaign of physical aggression and cheap shots, has been one of the biggest and most troubling stories in all of sports. But that battle has ignited a second, more complex, and perhaps more damaging conflict, a virtual civil war within the ranks of the WNBA itself.
I want to talk about, this is crazy. This is Sanaya Rivers and Marina Mabrey going on TikTok after that Connecticut Sun game and lying. And this is an example. I want to go through some things with this because this is an example to me of what an absolute unprofessional cesspool the WNBA is. I know you all know that, but I still think it's important to talk about this because history gets rewritten all of the time. I just saw somebody talking about now that with the Cheryl Reeves stuff, if you saw my video, people talking about how Caitlin Clark was not playing well at the time of the selection and on. And that, again, revisionist history. I did a deep dive at the time. Playing as well or better than any guard in the league. Chelsea Gray just...
The arrival of this one transcendent superstar has done more than just shatter ratings and attendance records. It has exposed deep and long simmering divisions among the players. It has created new rivalries, forged unlikely alliances, and sparked a league-wide identity crisis that is playing out not just on the court with hard fouls, but in explosive post-game press conferences and on fiery, unfiltered social media feeds.
To WNBA Fight Night, or as some people are saying, WNBA Raw. What a game that was. We had it all. We had basketball, we had fighting, we had blonde on blonde crime. Oh, such an epic. Oh, goodness. But at the end of the day, it resulted in an Indiana Fever W. 88-71, taking care of business.
This is the story of that civil war, an investigation into the two factions that have emerged, the battles they are waging, and the profound question of whether the Caitlin Clark effect will ultimately unite the league in prosperity or tear it apart from the inside out.
Man, so evil.
Well, damned if I do or damned if I don't.
Marina Mabrey, damned if I do. Did she just say damned if I do, damned if I don't? She just knocked someone on their ass for no reason from behind. She freaking Marcus Morrised them. Well, no, sorry, Nikola Jokic on Marcus Morrised her.
If I do, damned if I don't.
I ate that one up.
Like, it's just basketball, man. Y'all love that shit in the NBA though. It'd be cool when the dudes do it.
People were calling for Jokic got a suspension for doing what Marina Mabrey did to Marcus Morris.
From the moment Caitlin Clark's name was called as the #1 pick in the WNBA draft, the players of the league began to draw their battle lines, slowly but surely coalescing into two distinct and opposing camps. The first, and certainly the most visible and controversial, is what has been dubbed Camp Resentment. This faction is composed of players, often established veterans, who have been openly critical or physically aggressive towards the rookie phenom. The unofficial general of this camp, the one who fired the first shot, is arguably Diana Taurasi, one of the league's all-time greatest players and a figure often referred to as the GOAT.
So first of all, there was a practice. They did their media during the practice. They pulled Sophie Cunningham aside, and of course they asked her about the J.C. Sheldon incident, and she stood on business. She said, "This has been going on for a couple years now." Mind you, she was on the Phoenix Mercury last season, but she had mentioned that this had been going on for a couple years now with Caitlin Clark, and she was basically sending a message.
Before Clark had even played a single professional game, Taurasi went on ESPN and issued a stark, now infamous warning. "Reality is coming. You look superhuman playing against some 18-year-olds, but you're going to come play with some grown women that have been playing professional basketball for a long time." It was a comment dripping with condescension, a clear message from the old guard that the college superstar was not prepared for the physicality and talent of the pros, and that she should expect no warm welcome. This single comment set the tone for much of what was to follow.
gained, I think, 500,000 followers and such, and your jersey selling out. How cool is that for your...
Yeah, it's cool. It's funny what kind of people are attracted to. I'm just trying to keep the main thing is that's basketball, trying to win games, sticking up for my teammates. And that's all part of it. I think all that stuff it's fun and whatnot, but at the end of the day, we need to win some basketball games. I'm just going to be me. I don't go in there trying to predetermine anything. I'm dialed in. I need to focus on hitting my shots, making sure I'm executing the schemes right. I'm not focused on the extracurricular activities. And you know what? During that, it was just part of the game. I think the refs had a lot to do with that. It was a build-up for a couple of years now of them just not protecting, the star player of the WNBA. And
the soldiers on the front lines of Camp Resentment have been players like Chicago Sky Guard Chennedy Carter, whose blindside shoulder check on Clark became a national incident, and Angel Reese, whose long-standing rivalry with Clark has been defined by hard fouls, pointed taunts, and a public embrace of the bad guy role. The motivations for this camp are complex and deeply human. It is a potent cocktail of professional jealousy over Clark's unprecedented media attention and her mountain of multi-million-dollar endorsement deals. It is a legitimate frustration from players who feel that their own years of hard work, their own championships, and their own excellence have been callously overlooked by a media machine that has suddenly decided that this one player is the only story that matters. And it is a sense of being disrespected by a narrative that has crowned Clark the savior of a league that they feel they built with their own blood, sweat, and tears. They are fighting to protect their turf and to force the new star to pay her dues in the most physical way possible.
The Fever saw it coming. They went and got Sophie Cunningham, 6-year-old black belt. This is what the Bulls did with Charles Oakley to protect Michael Jordan. Watch the retaliation later by Sophie Cunningham. And again, this is inappropriate, right? No, it's what happens in basketball.
If the Indiana Fever fans keep voting the way that they are, could they get Sophie Cunningham to an All-Star game? The Indiana Fever have 4 players in the top 10 of WNBA All-Star voting right now. So could we see 5? However, that top 10 is missing someone, and I think you guys are about to snub Angel Reese from an All-Star game, which is crazy.
On the other side of this civil war is Camp Reality. This faction is composed of players, both veterans and young stars, who have publicly defended Clark, or at the very least, have acknowledged the undeniable, positive, and transformative impact she is having on the entire league. Their mantra is the classic, pragmatic adage, "A rising tide lifts all boats." This camp includes some of the league's most powerful and respected figures. Breanna Stewart, a multi-time MVP and one of Clark's fiercest on-court competitors, has been seen laughing and sharing moments of clear mutual respect with Clark during games. Las Vegas Aces star Kelsey Plum has been vocal about the need for players to appreciate what Clark is bringing to the game, even if it comes with uncomfortable levels of attention. Even Aja Wilson, the league's reigning MVP and another direct rival for the title of Best Player, has offered nuanced takes that, while acknowledging the hype can be overwhelming, ultimately condemn the hate and physical targeting directed at Clark.
I think something we noticed, and I think a lot of people noticed, is when Caitlin would get bullied, nobody would do nothing.
That's right.
Nobody would do nothing. It was like, hey, they didn't know, like, whoa, I can't believe this is happening. I can't believe people are doing this to Caitlin Clark. Teammates weren't jumping in there. They bring in Sophie Cunningham. I had no idea. Sophie Cunningham was a black belt at the age of 6.
Yeah. Yep.
The motivation for Camp Reality is one of clear-eyed professionalism. They understand that Caitlin Clark's unprecedented star power, the sold-out arenas, the record-breaking TV ratings, the new multi-million-dollar media rights deals, the charter flights for all teams, is benefiting every single player in the league financially. They see the bigger picture. They recognize that while Caitlin Clark may be their opponent on the court for 40 minutes, her success is absolutely crucial for the long-term health, growth, and prosperity of the entire WNBA. They are the ones who have chosen to welcome the Golden Goose rather than try to strangle it.
Sitting there and I'm thinking to myself, is anybody on this team gonna stand up for Caitlin Clark? JC Sheldon grabbing Caitlin Clark all game, clawing at her. It's like tonight was a brawl, folks. Tonight was a brawl, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, is anybody on this team going to stand up for? And Sophie Cunningham.
This civil war is not being fought just with hard fouls on the court. Its primary battleground has become the world of social media and the post-game press conference. In a dramatic shift for the WNBA, players are now using their own platforms to wage a war of words, a relentless battle to control the public narrative. The Chennedy Carter incident is a prime case study. After delivering her infamous cheap shot on Clark, Carter did not issue an apology. Instead, she took to social media and began liking and reposting comments from fans and commentators who supported her actions and were critical of Clark. On her Threads account, she wrote cryptic messages like, "Besides three-point shooting, what does she bring to the table, man?" It was a clear act of digital defiance, a way of doubling down on her aggression and signaling to the world that she felt no remorse.
Start with the play that set off the entire night. So as you guys can see here, JC Sheldon is guarding Caitlin Clark. She swipes her in the eyeball. Caitlin Clark nudges her off because JC stays in her face. And then Tina Charles runs over and is kind of wagging her finger in Caitlin Clark's face. And then Marina Mabrey comes out of nowhere and chucks her to the floor. Now let's watch this in slow motion. Here, JC Sheldon is guarding Caitlin, swipes her in the face. There's one. Going for the ball, swipes her in the eyeball. Caitlin's gonna have to start wearing goggles. And then Caitlin pushes her off of her, like, why are you still in my face? Marina Mabrey, bat out of hell, chucks Caitlin Clark to the ground.
DeJoni Carrington of the Connecticut Sun has also emerged as a prominent voice in this war of words. She has used her Twitter X account to offer a running, often sharp and sarcastic commentary on the officiating, the media coverage, and what she perceives as a double standard that unfairly protects Caitlin Clark. She has become one of the most articulate and consistent voices of the skeptic camp among the players, and her commentary is eagerly consumed by fans on that side of the debate. The post-game press conference has also become a key battleground. Players now regularly use their time at the podium to send pointed messages, to subtweet their rivals, and to frame the events of the game in a way that benefits their side of the argument. This has added a layer of high-stakes, personal drama to the season that is unprecedented in the league's history.
I've been watching that Sophie Cunningham thing on repeat, man. That clip where she grabbed the girl and threw her down, so foul. It's a hard basketball foul, probably over the top. Of course it is, but why would it not be given the circumstances? But once she did the clinch, man, MMA fans, UFC, grappling, Muay Thai, like we all know, once you seen that clinch, it was like, okay, she just ain't no regular fucking person. She knows something. She got some skills, and I guess she has like a black belt in Taekwondo or some shit like that, which is wild. And apparently she was the kicker on a high school football team. I mean, I've been going to the fucking lore of what is Sophie Cunningham. I'm like, god damn. This is what they mean when they talking about they like snow bunnies. Like this her.
What makes this internal conflict so fascinating and at times so confusing for the public is that it doesn't always break down along simple pro-Clark versus anti-Clark lines. The intense spotlight has created a complex landscape of shifting and sometimes unlikely alliances, with players offering nuanced takes that defy easy categorization. The most prominent example of this is the league's reigning MVP and one of its most respected leaders, Aja Wilson of the Las Vegas Aces. As one of the faces of the league and a dominant force on the court, she could easily view Clark as a direct threat to her status. And at times, she has expressed a deep and understandable frustration with the media's singular, obsessive focus on the rookie. She has spoken eloquently about the incredible talent that has existed in the league for years, particularly among Black players, and the collective frustration of seeing that talent overlooked.
Nah. Enough's enough, bruh. Enough is enough, bruh. What is going on? WNBA, y'all need to get this under control. This is ridiculous. Marina Mabrey, you just put yourself in the DeJoni Carrington box. You dirty slime ball player, you come and blindside Caitlin Clark. Marina Mabrey assaulted and tried to fight Caitlin Clark today. This is ridiculous. WNBA, Kathy Engelberg, do something. Do y'all want to go back to 55 to 60% of the people not watching shit again? I normally don't cuss in my blogs, but forget that. This was bullshit.
However, Aja Wilson has also been one of the most powerful and important voices in condemning the hate, and particularly the racist undertones that have crept into the public discourse surrounding Clark. She has clearly stated that while basketball rivalries and tough competition are part of the game, personal attacks and bigotry have absolutely no place in it. She has even publicly praised Clark for speaking out about her own white privilege and for using her platform to elevate the Black women who built the league. In doing so, Wilson has carved out a complex, thoughtful, and deeply respected position. She is simultaneously a fierce competitor who is not afraid to critique the media hype, and a respected league leader who is willing to defend a rival from unacceptable abuse. This nuance shows that the players' civil war is not a simple binary. It is a complex web of professional respect, competitive jealousy, personal principle, and racial dynamics.
All right, enough is enough. You know, at some point, the line gets crossed too often where something needs to be done and things need to be corrected. And that is certainly the case with the way things around Caitlin Clark are officiated. This is a constant problem now. You know, it is something that since the beginning, I've kind of like backed off on because physical play is a part of sports. You know, going after a superstar and trying to rough them up a little bit to get in their head is a part of sports. But when it crosses the line, the referees need to do their job.
At the very epicenter of this league-wide storm is the Indiana Fever locker room, and specifically, Caitlin Clark's actual teammates. They are in a unique and incredibly difficult position. On one hand, they are under immense public pressure to be more physically protective of their superstar. The media and fans are constantly scrutinizing their every reaction to a hard foul, judging whether or not they are tough enough to be Clark's enforcers. On the other hand, they are also trying to prove to the world that they are more than just Clark's supporting cast. They are elite professional athletes in their own right, and the media's singular, obsessive focus on Clark can often render them, and their own considerable talents, completely invisible. Players like Aaliyah Boston, a former Rookie of the Year, and a budding superstar herself, have had to navigate this difficult dynamic with grace. In press conferences, Boston has consistently spoken about the team's growing chemistry and their collective effort to stand up for one another, even as the outside world criticizes them for not doing enough. Head coach Christy Sides has been visibly furious with the officiating, often picking up technical fouls for arguing on Clark's behalf. But the pressure remains immense. They face a damned if you do, damned if you don't scenario. If they don't retaliate physically after a cheap shot, they are labeled as soft and as failing their teammate. If they do retaliate, they risk fines, suspensions, and being labeled as thugs themselves. The internal struggle of the Indiana Fever to build a winning team, to protect their cornerstone player, and to carve out their own identities in the massive shadow cast by Caitlin Clark is one of the most compelling and high-stakes dramas in all of sports. When you zoom out from the specifics of the current WNBA season, the conflict that is consuming the league can be seen as a classic sports narrative, one that has played out in every professional league throughout history, the epic battle of the old guard versus the future. Every sport has these inflection points, moments when a revolutionary young star or stars arrive and completely upend the established order. When Magic Johnson and Larry Bird entered the NBA in 1979, they were met with a deep skepticism and, at times, a palpable resentment from some of the league's established, predominantly black veterans. They were seen by some as the Great White Hopes, who were being unfairly handed the keys to the league. When a teenage LeBron James entered the league with a Nike contract worth nearly $100 million before he had played a single game, he was criticized by older players for not having paid his dues. This is a timeless story of generational conflict. The established veterans, the old guard, who have fought and bled to build the league, feel a natural and understandable sense of ownership. They are often resistant to a newcomer who arrives with more fame and more media attention than they ever received for their own considerable accomplishments. They believe that respect is not given, but earned through years of hard work and professional struggle. The new star, on the other hand, arrives as a disruptive force, a meteor that changes the entire ecosystem, drawing a new level of attention that the old guard could only dream of. The WNBA is now living through its own supercharged version of this classic narrative. The old guard, represented by some of the league's longtime veterans, is testing the future, represented by Caitlin Clark. It is a battle for the soul, the identity, and the direction of the league, a conflict as old as sport itself. In the final analysis, the arrival of Caitlin Clark has done far more than just boost the WNBA's ratings and sell a historic number of jerseys. It has forced a league-wide reckoning. It has acted as a catalyst, igniting a civil war that has exposed old resentments, created new and complex tensions, and forced every single player in the league to, in some way, choose a side. The divisions are real, the animosity is palpable, and the stakes for the future of the league could not be higher. This internal conflict, playing out on the court with hard fouls, in the media with pointed commentary, and across social media with digital skirmishes, has become a drama as compelling as any basketball game itself. This leads us to a final, powerful, and forward-looking question. Will this internal conflict, this battle for the soul of the league, ultimately tear the WNBA apart, driving away the millions of new fans it so desperately needs to retain? Or will it prove to be the painful but necessary fire that forges a new, stronger, tougher, and ultimately more compelling WNBA for the future? The answer will define the next chapter of women's professional basketball.